Okay. We're back again with the same shirts. So, and we had a nice little discussion. Two things came up. The word eudaimonia, which is now a favorite word, we should all learn that word, eudaimonia, was defined, Aristotle, or the fine Jesuit priest here who will identify soon, said it means good spirit, and he was genuine good is what you're pursuing. But it's an example of linguistics and how very careful you have to be when you're taking current thinking and ascribing it to prior times and prior writers, because what does this word mean, literally?
Well, literally, it's you means well, and daimonia is the word for demon. But it had the ability to be referred to any spirit, and the context would indicate it was a good spirit, a bad spirit.
And you'll find that in every part of your life is that half the time that you're having a problem is because of definitions. It just seems that way to me. And if you just stop conversations and go back to the assumptions and talk about the definitions, you resolve problems, which is what the Japanese do. The Japanese in business, they do not argue about conclusions. They stop and they go back and they analyze assumptions. Because we all can reason pretty much. There are some defective people, I suppose. But we all have reason, and we can all go 1 + 1 = 2, as long as we all agree as to what 1 means, and you're in the binary system. So that's the first part. The second one was we were talking about virtue, and Guy mentioned at a prior conversation Deuteronomy 6, and that's not from the show Cats. All right, this is Deuteronomy 6, and would you just, and this will be a short video, and I'm just going to ask Guy to explain the view of Deuteronomy 6, and it'll be clear as to why this is important with Aristotle.
And Aristotle wanted us to see virtue as a package instead of just one issue like moral integrity. It had to cover a lot of things. And in order for you to be happy, you would have to develop this virtue over a period of time. And that would indicate some parental responsibility in training children from one generation to the next. And I mentioned to Gene that this goes along quite well with what the Hebrews believed. Deuteronomy 6 was the passage that the Hebrews focused on primarily for child rearing. And we said that in order for you to be able to achieve what Aristotle wanted to achieve, you had to have a foundation, and the foundation is the good that he talked about, or as Gene mentioned, the genuine good. So if you go to the book of Deuteronomy, it starts out with, Hear, O Israel, the Lord thy God is one God. Thou shalt love the Lord with all thine heart, all thy soul, all thy mind, that you may experience goodness in the land to which you're going. And then he said, and thou shalt teach these to your children and your children's children, so that they too can understand the good. And we were talking about it during the break, how this is a parallel thing, because the good in Deuteronomy chapter 6 is the Lord himself, and every one of his expressions, statutes, judgments, commandments, anything that God says. So then the parents are to, I call it Operation Saturation. The parents are to saturate the environment of the child's life. So when the child lies down at bed tonight, the parents should be talking about this good of the Lord. And then when the child gets up in the morning, first thing you talk about is this good of the Lord. And then if you go out in public, walking along the roadway, you talk about this good with the Lord. And then when you come home to rest at home, you talk about this good with the Lord. And the idea is you saturate the child's environment with what you want the child to develop. And I think Aristotle was talking about that in Preceding the Good. He said, if happiness is the goal, then what you have to do is you have to have a process which actually leads to that goal. The happiness is the end. The process is the cause that leads to the end, or cause and effect. So what they're talking about in Deuteronomy chapter 6 is your relationship to God is the end for your children, because that's going to provide for you the good and provide for them the good that they need foundationally to find happiness in life. And each one of the steps in there of teaching it is very important. One of the final steps there in Deuteronomy 6 is interesting. God tells them that you shall write them on your fingers. And a lot of times the Jews wore a ring which had each of the commandments on the fingers. And then the phylacteries they would put up here on their forehead and tie it there. And there'd be the 10 commandments inside that to indicate that it was supposed to control their thinking. And then they were to write them on the doorposts of their houses. I take that to mean literally that they were to do that, but more than that, it was to indicate they were not ashamed of the truth that they were laying as the foundation for the happy life for their children. I think Aristotle would tell us the same thing.
Yep.
Don't be ashamed of the process which leads to the end, which is your happiness.
That's right. And as you're speaking, let me flip the coin to the other side. When the United States was founded, this was a Christian nation. There were Jewish communities, Charleston, Florida, but it was a Christian nation. It wasn't even so much Catholic. And the public school system, or schools in general, did exactly what we just talked about here. Mm-hmm. The Bible was used to teach grammar, vocabulary, and it was an essential part of an ethical training for children. Now, over the centuries, or there's a couple of centuries, this has all changed, and now we're told that this is not true. The founding fathers weren't Christians, and our public school systems now saturate the student with, I'm going to call it amorality. If you do not teach morality to children, that is teaching them amorality.
Mm-hmm. It also teaches immorality, like.
Well, that's next.
Yes,
that's next. So the underpinnings of our country that relied on trust, honor, virtue, are insidiously being subverted in the public school systems and even in private schools now by a subversive wisdom, which is to get the children early and saturate them with crazy stuff. Mm-hmm. And with and mocking any attempt to explain a morality to the child. I guess I'll stop there. I can go on and on, but mm-hmm. this is happening right now, and you should look at your children and talk to them.
Okay.
All right.
And this ends. This will be what, number 4?
Number 4.
Okay. And we want to thank you for watching in, and we hope to bring more to you later on Aristotle and a lot of other things. Thanks for watching.
Yeah, and we'll have different shirts.
Mm-hmm. Different shirts. I want to turn over the chair.
Yes.